Ladies and gentlemen, it is Johnny TCG back with another video today. Today I'm coming at you with some off-meta spice. We've got starter deck 10, Eustass Captain Kid, a 5-life leader, dual type purple and red. He has 2 abilities, the first one being on your turn if you have 4 or more life cards, this leader has minus 1000 power. And then his second ability is when attacking Don -1, this leader gains plus 2000 power for the turn. This creates some awkward situations both for you and your opponent. Early game, your opponent can kind of stall you out and not swing right away, and then if you want to swing it to them, you'll have to invest Don either by attaching it or by returning it to your Don deck. But it's not all doom and gloom because his second ability, late game, can become a real issue for your opponents. Constantly swinging for 7,000 and more with your leader is absolutely huge. Before we get into the gameplay, let's get started into a quick deck breakdown. First up, we have Kid and Killer. I'm only running 2 of these because I feel like they're best served late game, and at that point you don't need to see 4. When your opponent is at 2 or less life, having a 4-drop 7k rusher is absolutely busted. If you told me you ran more than 2 of these, I wouldn't call you crazy. Next up, we have a 2k Sanji from OP07. 2 cost is mainly used as a 2k that we can search off of. When we're at sea, you fight pirates. When your opponent is trying to stall you out, this can be a good early turn play so that you can start taking your own life, getting down to 3 life where your leader is no longer minus 1000 power. Monkey D. Dragon, one of my favorite cards in the deck, absolute beast of a card. Throw him down for 8, swing 9000 with him, give 2 Don to leader, use leader ability, and now you're swinging 9000 with your leader as well. Next, we're running 2 5-drop Monkey D. Luffy's from starter deck 01. The main purpose of this Luffy is as a late game finisher, where you can give it 2 Don and then it will become unblockable. 2 seems like the right number for me, but your experience may vary. Next we have Mr. Tube on Clay, 4-drop. This is a good turn 2 play if you're on the even curve. I definitely think that this is worth running in the deck. You ramp a Don as active, and then you can give that Don to your leader and swing for 5 without using leader ability. Franosuke, another 2k counter. It is searchable. You can use the effect in a pinch if you really need it. Eustass Captain Kid blocker from OP05. I love this card. It synergizes absolutely perfectly with our leader. When we return a Don to our Don deck, Eustass Captain Kid allows us to re-ramp it back as active, which we can use to play out another character, or we can save open for an event like Radical Beam. I'm only running 2 Hitokiri Kamazus. Not a crazy card. This is a searchable 2k from when you're at sea, you fight pirates. I haven't found a ton of use for it, but if you were playing it against a deck like Zoro and Sanji, or maybe a deck that runs Sugars, this would be really good because then you'd be able to clear off some of their smaller bodies. 6-drop blocker Sanji from OP07, great 2k, searchable, and when you're at less Don than your opponent by at least 2, it becomes a 3 cost, which is great value. I'll talk about these next couple at the same time. Tony Chopper, Porsche, and Heat. All of these, this is an amazing turn 2 combo for us, especially if we're on the odd curve. With Porsche, we're able to look at the top 5 cards of our deck for a Foxy Pirates type character. This is going to miss most of the time, but that is a-okay. If we already have a Tony Chopper or Heat in our hand, we'll then play these cards out using Porsche's ability. I guess, I've never tried it, but I guess you could also play Mr. Tube on Clay off of Porsche as well, which would be epic. I'm definitely going to try that combo out now. Kaido, 9-drop, starter deck 4. What more is there to say? This card is absolutely awesome. It is the biggest top end we're running in this deck, and it puts in work. Definitely great for going for game, even just establishing it on board and clearing an opponent's character, or hopefully 2 characters. 2 Radical Beams. Who doesn't love a Radical Beam? We've got the one of Ragnarok. This is for Eustass Captain Kid and Bonnie, or 8-drop Katakuri and Enel. This comes in handy sometime. It could be a 2 of. I don't think that's absolutely crazy. Then we got 3 Gum Gum Jet Gattlings, the classic 0 cost 3k counter event. And then last but not least, we have When You're at Sea, You Fight Pirates. I think this spot is not solidified. It's only a top 3 search, and from time to time you do whiff on it, which feels bad. It does have the trigger, which is nice. I would definitely hear you out if you have any other suggestions. Before we go into the gameplay, I do have a custom leader to give away. If you're going to build this deck in real life, you need the custom leader to go with it. It uses art from the One Piece Treasure Cruise app. It is not my art. I am not selling this. To win it, all you have to do is leave a like and a comment, and if this video gets 15 likes in the first 24 hours, I will send it out to one US-based commenter. Good luck. That's been enough yapping. I've got some good sim games for you. Roll the gameplay. First leader up we have against Red Yellow Sabo from Starter Deck 13. I don't see any Porsche or Heat in my opening hand, so I will mulligan. I do see a Heat. I do see a Mr. 2 Bon Clay for my turn 3 play. So I'm liking where I'm at right now. They're going to go with Hiyori, turn 1, take the top of their life and replace it with another card. I'm assuming that's going to be a trigger. We're just going to play the Heat out and then pass. For 1, they're going to play Charlotte Pudding, which I did not expect them to play. Big Mom Pirates build common for Red Yellow Sabo. It'll be interesting to see what they take. They take the Charlotte Cracker. That's not surprising to have in their deck, as it is a popular trigger character, but I've never seen the actual Pudding run in a Sabo deck. They've got 3 Dawn left to work with. They're just going to swing big with Leader, and I am absolutely going to take that. We get the Eustass Captain Kidd out of our life. It was originally going to be a Mr. 2 Bon Clay play, but we are going to go with the Kidd instead. We get to use his ability to regain 1 Dawn as active, and I'm using Leader ability, so that's how I'm able to swing for 6. Heat has now been boosted to 6,000, which is awesome. This card synergizes so well with the Eustass Captain Kidd Leader, and we're actually going to swing for 6,000, leaving 1 Dawn up for maybe a potential Radical Beam. We do not want to let that Heat go so early because we're going to get a ton of value from it. They've got 6 Dawn to work with. We have yet to take a life from them. They did counter out of both hits, which I found surprising. I'm wondering if it's a Wano trigger, and therefore they need me to be at 3 life. 6,000 at me. I am going to counter out of this. I am debating what to use to counter out of this, and I use the 2k. The reason being I might want to use Mr. 2 Bon Clay next turn. And if they run rushers, I wanted to keep the Eustass Captain Kidd up. And that is exactly what they did. They've got a Zoro coming at me, and I am just going to use the either 0 cost event or Radical Beam. I don't think I can go wrong with either. If I'm blocking with Eustass Captain Kidd, that means it's the Radical Beam. And are they going to add that Zoro to the top of their life? They do. They power up the Charlotte Pudding. I am pretty comfortable with where we're at. I like our board. I like that we have the Kaido coming up soon. We're going to start our turn with the Mr. 2 Bon Clay, which lets us ramp it on. Now we're at 8, and we're going to swing big with our Leader, using Leader ability because Eustass Kidd gets it right back, and Heat is now powered up. They're going to take the Zoro swing. I'm going to go 7 with Heat. And we'll see if they take this. It would require 2 cards out of hand if they don't want to. They take the life. It seems like there was probably a trigger, but maybe they're deciding on whether or not to use it. Which is interesting because they did use a Hiyori after all to put it down. And they do have the Charlotte Sparrow trigger, getting rid of a 7-mom for it. That's fine. It doesn't really change my level of concern right now. I'm still feeling pretty good about this. I'm going to play down the Tony Chopper and pass. I've got 2 blockers on board. The Heat is at 6,000 power. I have 2 0-cost events, but I don't want to use them to get rid of the Kaido, so I might have to let the Heat go, unless I decide to use Tony Chopper. With Zoro in their hand, they'll have at least 3 decent swings at me. 6,000 with lead at Heat. I am debating on whether or not I want to use Tony Chopper blocker. What else could they throw at me? But I'm going to go with it. I'll block with Tony Chopper. They are going to throw down the Rush Zoro, and so here is where I will unfortunately let it go. I could have used the zero cost event, but I'd rather just keep them in my hand. There's no point in fighting to keep that alive any longer. It served us very well, if I say so myself. They'll likely use Leader ability to power up the Charlotte Parasparrow, putting that Zoro back into life. 6,000 with the Parasparrow. I am just going to take this. Let's see what we can get. We get the Gum Gum Jet Gatling. Now we have 3 in our hand. While that is a nice trigger, there's no benefit to using it right now. Early game, though, when you get a Gum Gum Jet Gatling trigger, it is absolutely awesome. They've got 1 Dawn left to work with. They are going to add Zoro to the top of their life, power up the Parasparrow, and that's all. They're leaving 1 Dawn up, maybe for a Rad Beam or Guard Point. I almost played the Kaido first, but then I remember with Mr. 2 Bon Clay, I need to swing with him while the Parasparrow was still on their board. Almost did not get value out of him, which would have been tragic. They let that attack hit, and now it's time for the big body Kaido. Going to KO the Parasparrow with his effect. Now they're going to look at the top 3 cards. And they do get another Parasparrow. That is not the end of the world. We're at 6 Dawn. I'm debating on how low in Dawn I want to go. I'm going to go 7,000 with Leader and not use my Leader ability because Eustass Captain Kid already re-ramped us a Dawn from Kaido. And I don't want to go too far down in Dawn just yet. We do have some bigger bodies we would like to play. They counter out of the Leader swing, and they're going to take the 10,000 swing from Kaido. And now they get the Charlotte Cracker trigger. That is not ideal. We do have a blocker if they try to swing for double attack. We do have a decent amount of counter in hand. But you don't love to see a Charlotte Cracker trigger, ever. It's giving me Katakuri PTSD. I love that people aren't playing that deck as much anymore, but nowadays I'm better at playing into it, so even if they did, it would not be as scary as it once was. For 9 Dawn, they play the Yamato, which is interesting. I have not seen that card played a lot in Red-Yellow Sabo. They are able to get rid of my 5-drop Captain Kid blocker, which is tragic. We did get a lot of value out of him, though, so it is what it is. We just gotta let the Bon Clay go after a 2,000 swing from Charlotte Pudding. We would have been able to defend against that, but we would not have been able to protect it against 2 swings from Leader and Charlotte Cracker. They're gonna go 6,000, and I will take this. I do get the Franosuke, which is a fine 2k to get right now. I think a Monkey D Dragon would actually be ideal in this situation. It might even be able to win me the game. Or a Kidding Killer. I might just have to block her up next turn. We'll see. Because they will have plenty of swings on me, and you never know what kind of triggers they get. Ooh, we get the Monkey D Dragon off the top deck. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we love to see. This is what divine intervention looks like. I think we'll probably be able to go for game here, and might as well. We'll start with 9,000 from Dragon. We attached 2 Dawn to our Leader. They take that. Is there going to be a trigger? No beige, hopefully. They do get the Charlotte Cracker trigger. Now that tells me that they don't have enough to counter out of this hit. Because they had to discard Parasparrow as well. I would have been much more nervous if they didn't use the Cracker trigger. The 9,000 with Leader goes through, and then we have 10,000 with Kaido, and let's go. We get the dub. Future Johnny here. I'm not sure why they didn't put Yamato back into life with Leader ability, power up the Cracker, and then swing 7,000 at me. That might just be a play mistake. I'm not sure if there was strategy behind that. I'm not sure if we would have won if they did that. We do have a lot of counter in hand, though, so it would have been interesting to see. We've got a game against Boa Hancock from OP07. I do really like this first opening hand. We are going to be able to play Porsche on turn 2. See if we can grab anything, but regardless if we do or not, we do have the Tony Chopper to play off the Porsche, which we love that combo in this deck. They're going to do a Sengoku search, and they are going to get the 6-drop Boa Hancock. That card will certainly be annoying. We're going to do a Porsche search, not find anything, but that's okay. We will play out Tony Chopper to get that Dawn right back. Now we've got 2 bodies on board. It is only turn 2. I'm feeling pretty good. We'll probably see a Boa Hancock swing and then a 4-cost 7 Warlords of the Sea character. Hopefully not a Jinbei, but if it is, we'll deal with it. I'm thinking next turn I do the same exact play where I play out the Porsche and then the Tony Chopper again. And then we're really going wide. They're going to swing 5,000 at me. Feels bad to take a 5k, but we'll take it. We get the heat, which is cool. Maybe we'll play that off the Porsche. I'm debating on if I should add Don to my Porsche before I swing with it. I decide not to. 5,000 in the leader. They 2k out of that. That makes perfect sense. Now it's time to play the Porsche. We can't get anything off the search, which is absolutely fine. And then we're going to play Heat, actually, because combined with the leader ability, Heat is such a good card. Because of its low cost, it is easily removed versus black decks, but against non-black decks, it is solid. I'm debating on whether or not to use leader ability, and I decide not to. I'm only at 4 Dawn. I want to get up to 8 as soon as possible because I know that Dragon will cause mayhem for this Boa. Dragon is one of the funnest cards in this deck. Dragon is usually the funnest card in any deck. 5,000 against Porsche. I am debating on whether or not I want to block or counter out of this. For 6 Dawn, we'll probably see the Boa Hancock come out here. I'm debating. It makes more sense to use a 1k if I were to counter, but I do want to keep that Tony Chopper. I decide to block with Tony Chopper and then counter out of Tony Chopper again. Keeping that Porsche alive. Let me know if you agree with this. I have gone down to 3 cards in hand, but I think it was worth it. We'll need the swings. They're going to prevent the Heat from attacking, which is interesting. So I have 2 Porsche swings available and a leader swing. I'm thinking that I'll do 2 Porsche swings, a leader swing, and then a Kidding Killer swing. Even though the Kidding Killer won't be at 7,000 power, it is still a rusher for 5k at the end of the day. They 2k out of the first Porsche swing, and then they let the Croc go on the second Porsche swing. We like to see that. I'm just going to go 5 with leader into their leader, making my Kidding Killer a 6,000 in the lead, which is great. And we're going to swing 6. And they take it, which is interesting. They are down to 3 life. If this Kidding Killer stays alive, it's going to be a problem for them. Next turn, we can play Monkey D. Dragon, which if they swing with Boa, hopefully we'll be able to remove the Boa off their board. 6,000 in a Porsche. Do I want to defend this? I do have 2 2Ks in hand. With 7 Dawn available to them, we might see a Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. I decide I am going to counter out of this because I don't want them to KO 2 characters and then bottom deck 2 with Gravity Blade. We'll let the Porsche go after the Boa swing. That is fine. They'll probably Gravity Blade my Heat and Kidding Killer. And that's exactly what they do. I can see the future. We'll start with 5,000 into lead. I imagine they'll counter out of this. They do. 1k with Dofi. Now we're going to go 8 cost Dragon, one of my absolute favorite cards. And we're going to give both Dawn to him so that we can swing big into the Boa. Luckily, we do get it. If we did not get it, it would be a little bit awkward for the next turn. Then I'm going to swing 6,000 with leader using his ability, and they take that as well. Right now, I'd say we're in a great position. If they swing into the Porsche, I will counter out of it most likely. And if they play a Boa or Red Rock the Dragon, so be it. They do swing 6 into Porsche, and I'm going to 2k counter out of this. I don't like the idea of going down to 1 card in hand though, so I am playing a little bit risky here. They have 9 Dawn open. Maybe they play the 9-drop Mihawk. If they do, the only thing they can bottom deck is my Porsche, and that is perfectly fine with me. If my Monkey D. Dragon can attack this next turn, I want that Porsche alive. They're going to go the classic 6-drop Boa into 3-cost Dofi blocker. My Dragon can no longer attack, which is really inconvenient. and we top deck the chopper blocker, so it seems this is just going to be a kind of defensive turn, which I don't love. A Gravity Blade Raging Tiger will wipe out both of my blockers. We're going to start with 7 from Porsche. They'll have to give me 2 cards, or just block it. They give me the hit, which is great. No trigger. Using leader ability, I'll actually be able to play out the Sanji for 3 Dawn, which is absolutely huge. We're cheating the system here. They block the 8,000 swing with leader with Dofi blocker, and then I'm going to play out Sanji for 3 and then Tony Chopper for 2. We've got a decent board. Hopefully they don't have another Boa to freeze the dragon again, but we'll see. I'd like for them to start swinging into my life so I can get some cards in the hand and increase my options of what to play next turn. If they swing into the Porsche, I may or may not block with Chopper. We'll see. 5,000 in a Porsche. If I block this, they will just swing into it with Boa. I'm thinking that I should let it hit because the Boa will then swing into my life. Life card to get, but it is what it is. They're going to play the 10-drop Kaido and bounce back the Tony Chopper blocker and the dragon. I think that's a questionable play. This dragon is just going to be able to swing again. Now, I guess it's better than nothing, but not ideal for them. Now we're going to go 7 with leader. We are not going to attach 2 Dawn because I imagine they do have 3k of counter in hand. We are going to use the Tony Chopper blocker. They have the 0 cost event to address the 7,000 swing, and now we're going to play out the Tony Chopper blocker. If they didn't use Kaido to pop both of those cards back to hand, it probably would have been GG's, but I don't feel like I'm in a bad position now. They've got one more big swing, it is what it is, but next turn I might be able to pull it off. They Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, both my blockers. This Kaido will probably swing in a dragon, and you hate to see it. Unfortunately, there is nothing I can do. It feels bad to have to let it go. Our deck runs a decent amount of rushers though, so I am hoping that we get one from life or top deck. Maybe we have the divine luck again. If they have the Dofi blocker, that will make things awkward. 1 Dawn on leader, that means they won't have the Dofi blocker. This game should be mine next turn. Not having it for them is fatal. I'll counter out of their leader swing, counter out or take the Boa swing. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to go big. Let's throw it all down. Or should we play it safe and play Eustass Captain Kid? That would be crazy. We're actually going to play it a little safe and just throw down the Eustass Captain Kid blocker and swing big with leader, 12,000. In hindsight, this was a mistake. I disagree with this. I should have just went big. I would have been able to go 16,000. They are able to get to 13,000, which is absolutely brutal. Now, if they top deck a Gravity Blade Raging Tiger or a 3,000 Worlds, they would win right here, which is absolutely tragic, but I can't say I don't deserve to be punished. It is just a matter of what was that last card they drew. If they swing before bottom decking the kid, I will use it instantly, and this keeps me alive for another turn unless they run the Rush Usab, which would be so spicy that I would not feel sad at all about losing. They're going to play out the Gecko into the 3-cost Dofi blocker. Now, this is a little awkward, and we top deck the Dragon again. That is absolutely absurd that we have such divine luck. Now, we do have the Franoskes too, so we actually would have been able to win off of Franoske, which is the first time I've ever seen his ability ever be useful. We get the dub though, maybe a little bit questionable plays by me, but it is what it is. Let me know what you thought about that game. Our first hand is a little weird, but we are going to go with it. We do have the When you're at sea, you fight pirates, and we actually whiff off that search, which is bad news. Next turn, though, we'll be able to play the Mr. Tube on Clay or the Heat if we prefer. And now it's just going to swing 8,000 into me. I'll take that. We now have 3 Eustass Captain Kids in our hand. That is pretty weird, but we'll take it. We're going to play Mr. Tube on Clay, give it down to Leader, and swing in for 5. And they're going to let it hit. No surprise there. 5,000 at me. I'm a little surprised by this. I thought we'd see a Gadatsu and then popping my Mr. Tube on Clay. I'll take the 5,000 swing. They're just going to play out the 5-drop Portgas D Ace. It doesn't have Rush since they're only at 3 life, which is cool with me. I'm debating on what order I want to do this in. I'm going to go Eustass Captain Kid blocker because that will let me get Don back from my leader ability. We're going to go 7 into lead. Let's see if they take this. They do, and no trigger, which is a pleasant surprise. Then we'll play Heat. We're not swinging with Mr. Tube on Clay just yet, and now we are developing a board. We are going to try to go as wide as possible right now. 5,000 with Enel. I should probably counter out of this or just free block with Eustass Captain Kid. I might want to save that Eustass Captain Kid though, so I am not going to block actually. I'll just give him the one Mr. Tube on Clay. I'll just give him the Mr. Tube on Clay. 7,000 with Ace. We'll take that. And they play down the Rush now, which I feel like you don't see as much anymore. And I'm going to block in 2k out of that. Now they're at 2 life. I'm going to try to clear their board this turn to the best of my ability. I'm going to play down the 5-drop Eustass Captain Kid first so that I can get 2 Don back when I use leader ability. I'm going to swing big into the Ace, using leader ability to get up to 9,000. I really want to clear their board this turn. They do have the 0 cost event, which is not ideal, but we still have 4 Don to work with. Now I'm going to go 2 Don on Mr. Tube on Clay and swing 9,000 into the Ace. Maybe they'll give it to me here. If not, we will swing again with Heat. They do give it to me, which is a great sign. Maybe they don't have a lot of counter in hand. And I'm debating on if I should end my turn here or play out the 2-drop Sanji. Now, I am going to play it even though it is me getting rid of a 2k counter. But I think in this situation, when I'm trying to go as wide as possible, it really could come in handy. 5,000 at my Mr. Tube on Clay. I will counter out of that. They're at 9 Don, so we might see a Yamato, is what I was thinking, until they dropped the 4-cost starter deck, 7 Charlotte Katakuri. This deck is spicy. Now they're going to go 12,000 into my Eustass Captain Kid. I actually could counter out of this if I'm feeling crazy. The old me would have countered out of that, but the new me is not going to counter out of that because I want to play it a little safer. I'm going to use Ragnarok to KO Charlotte Katakuri before they can get any value out of it. Now I'm going to play out the Eustass Captain Kid blocker from my hand. I did this in this order because now I can use Eustass Captain Kid's ability and get another Don ramped as active because I have a new Eustass Captain Kid on the board now. Take a shot for every time I just said Eustass Captain Kid. You are probably already drunk. I'm debating here of whether or not I should swing into the Enel. If I do, and they use Enel's ability, they will be down to 1 life, which means some of their big body's abilities will be maximized, which I don't love. But if they start countering out of these swings, then we're getting cards out of hand. And even if they do use leader ability, I will likely be able to get this off the board anyway. I'm going to start with the 7,000 swing from leader. If this doesn't hit, I can go 7,000 with Heat. If that doesn't hit, I could go 7,000 with Bon Clay. And if that doesn't hit, I could go 7,000 with Sanji. So they are coming in hot. Now my opponent disconnects. I'm not sure if that was a rage quit or what, but I think I would have had this. Let's take a look for a moment. They had 3 2Ks, so they would have been able to counter out of 3 of my swings, not the 4th one. If they use leader, if they counter out of every single one and then use Enel's ability on the 4th one, they would then be able to play Yamato next turn to heal themselves and KO Sanji. And then with Enel, they probably would have swung into Mr. Tuban Clay, which I could save with my Eustass Captain Kid blockers. And so then they're going to be at 2 life. And I've got 3. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd have 5 swings, and they've got 2 life and no counter in hand because they used it all on this next turn or on this past turn. I think I've got this game in the books. Let me know what you think. And those are the games I got for you today. What did you think about them? This deck is pretty fun to play. It's definitely a little hit or miss though, and so sometimes it does feel rough. Against Lucci, this deck does feel pretty bad. They are easily able to get rid of your Tony Chopper, your Porsche, your Heat, your Mr. Tuban Clay. None of these characters are staying on the board for very long, and so you're not getting a lot of value out of them. For example, Heat, making Heat 6,000 power usually will only last for a turn because they are going to do their best to get rid of it ASAP. Overall, I think this deck is fun to play. It can really catch your opponent slipping. You can find yourself in a board state where you're able to use leader ability every single turn and not really go down on Don because maybe you have a Eustass Captain Kid blocker on field and therefore you're swinging for 7,000 almost every turn. Combine that with rushers like Monkey D. Dragon and Kinda Killer late game, and you are applying a ton of pressure. Let me know if you would like to see more of this leader or if there are any other leaders you want to see. And don't forget, if you want to win the custom leader card, all you have to do is leave a like and a comment. That's all I got today. If you made it this far, you're a beast. Johnny TCG, out.